Thank you very much. Well done to you, Alec, and the business team. It's been a great couple of days, I must say. It's left me a lot more optimistic. We work in an environment where I get asked a lot of questions around how do you manage to stay sane? But I guess like any business, if there's no shortage of work, and there isn't any shortage of work when it comes to tackling corruption in South Africa, then you need to deal with the onslaught of it. And that's our biggest challenge. And that's the biggest frustration, is that we have to turn away so many projects, multi-billion rand corruption deals going down, just because we don't have the resources. We don't have the team, the people. So let me just spend a few minutes telling you why we do what we do. How do we do this? We're a team of 42 staff. And we built a model slightly different to your typical NGO. There are a lot of NGOs out there, thousands doing excellent work. So we're not the only ones. And some of them are big, some small, some one-man teams. But really, what we decided to do and what we had to do when we set out to challenge government's irrational ETOL decision was that we wanted to do it in a way that made government realize that civil society can stand up and win, and made civil society realize they have power, massive power. So when we took this project on, it wasn't because we didn't believe in electronic tolling or the user pays principle, as so many people think. We were just rabble-rousing. It was because after a year of trying to engage as the fleet industry body, which I was chairing at the time at Savrala, a year of engaging with SANRAL and the ministers of transport to find solutions to what was a scheme that was going to fail anyway. And the arrogant attitude was, we're going ahead with it regardless. It's no highway if you don't go their way. And it was really, really arrogant. But what we'd learnt in that year before we made the decision to tackle it legally was that the scheme was born in sin. What I mean by that, it was corrupt. It was always going to fail. It was never. They never really had the mechanisms in place to enforce, and we needed to challenge it. Finally, using the rule of law, and they said, "You can take us to court, but we're going ahead." And I must say, it was a rush to get those papers in before the launch date in the end of April. Long story short, we interdicted the launch. There's a bit of smack in the face of government, but that's where things changed. Because government has a lawfare strategy, and they will wear you down as civil society if you allow them to. And wear us down they did. They lent on all our supporters, the few business people that we'd got on board to help us fund this case. And we learned a lot about the legal system. When the lawyers tell you it's going to cost X, times it by 10. Because that's what happened with us. Seriously, we were told that case would be R1 million before we'd got out of the interdict, let alone the main case. It was R3.5 million. So we really had to build this car as we were driving down the highway. And it came close to crashing a number of times. And I think had government taken on a couple of other avenues, we would have closed down. But persevere we did, and what we essentially did was to say, let us not stop it exposing what is wrong. Let us fight government head on. Let us use a lawfare strategy against them. Let us use anti-propaganda and tackle them on with their propaganda. Let's drive the narrative. Let's tell the story the way it should be told, which is why communication is so important to us, that out of our 42-person team, 10 of them are in the social media and the media and the writing space. So important to get the story and the facts right. And then we wanted to build our own legal team, because we got sick and tired of making law firms rich. And the reason for that as well is that you need to build cases quickly and fast, so you can stop the deals from going down with quick interdicts. When you work with lawyers, external lawyers, look, you have to have an external legal team to put the matter together, but you also need senior counsel, but you need to work with those who work at your pace. And so we build cases very, very quickly. And the long and short of that is that we're able to interdict matters in a very, very quick manner. So, for instance, Cynthia Stimple He gives us information on a BNP Capital deal, 249 million rand, going down. We sent a clear message to Duvenage at the time. You will not do this deal. We will interdict it. They called our bluff. Within a week, we put the case together and we stopped it. We stopped it, and we stopped. That was just one of the small cases. We've done about 280 cases outside of the ETOL matter. So where are we with the ETOL scheme? It died. It died in 2014. The maximum compliance levels at 40%. It needed 90%. We did this because the scheme was expensive. It was overpriced, the road construction and the bonds, by 3 times the price. And we learnt as we tackled the matter, because we could see it had all the hallmarks of corruption, that the tender given to ETC, we were told, and so was government told, was a 6.4 billion rand tender, only to hear that 2 years prior to that it had been signed for 9.9 billion. And the sad thing is that when you tell the ministers this and you show them the evidence, there's stuff wrong here. You need to go and look at this. They do nothing. And Ian's right. The ANC is the most corrupt party, I think, in the world. They thrive and live and breathe on the funds that they get from corruption. So I want to take a little bit of a step back, because I'm absolutely, positive about where we are going and the opportunities. But I think we've got to do things differently in this country. We need to start introducing and speaking more about factors and matters that I talk about now as co-governance. And when I say co-governance, I don't mean the type of stuff that we're having with coalitions. I think the coalitions are good. They're a necessity. They fail in many parts of the country, but they succeed in others. There's about 40 local government coalitions in this country. 5 of them are failing. And we don't talk about the successful ones. So I think coalition governments will be good for this country if we can get it right. Where we're not getting it right is in big cities like Johannesburg. That's a serious problem for us. And I worry about this 2 worlds in one country. And a lot of you here live here, understand that. But if we think that everything else north of the Cape, it's their problem, it's not. It's our problem. You have the same rand, you have the same currency issues, and all that happens is crime follows the money. And you're going to be dealing with bigger and bigger issues here. And I see it, and I saw it in the local elections in Johannesburg, and I get very frustrated with the fact that I think more could have been done to save and keep the DA in power. But what happened was the political dynamics is diabolical, quite frankly. It should never have allowed to get into the situation that it did get into. And so now we have a corrupt cabal running the city, and every day they are plundering, and every day they're ignoring what their work should be. And the city is collapsing. It is collapsing, and the water is one issue. There are many issues. When the road infrastructure and the underground tunnels in the center of Joburg explode because of buildup of methane, because of the bad sewage overflows into stormwater drainage, that problem is going to get worse and worse, and so it goes on. So what do we need to do about it? Because I think what we have to become is part of the solution, and stop complaining about the problem. If Joburg fails, it is still the economic hub of this country. If you speak to the growth points and the high props and the big property investors, most of their assets are still in Joburg. And yet those assets will become stranded assets if we don't fix it. You can't just allow a city like that to fail. They cannot uplift those shopping centers, which are emptying out, those office blocks, those warehouses, which are emptying out. They can't move them. So we have to find a way to fix Joburg. Are we going to wait till 2026 politics, the elections? I don't think we can wait that long. And even if we do, who's in power today is not necessarily in power tomorrow. And we've seen that with the musical chairs of mayors going on there. So what do we have to do differently? Well, it's starting to happen. This co-governance approach that we're talking about is when citizens get involved, but we need to do it in a smart way, using the rule of law. What do I mean by that? And it's been done in a number of towns and cities. Harry Smith's one, recently Mangaung, a good court ruling. I'm not saying we go on tax revolts. I'm saying tax revolt is always a last resort at local government level. It will never happen at national government level. Whoever speaks and calls for a tax revolt at national government level, just know this. First of all, be careful what you wish for. The first month you don't pay the police, the ports, the doctors, the nurses. There's chaos. You never recover from that. Secondly, you'll never get big business to participate because they collect the revenue, VAT, PAYE, and they pay it over. And they're not going to participate, and that's a good thing. But at a local government level, it's very, very different. It's very different. Many towns have gone through incidences where they have taken over the running of water, waste, refuse removal, pothole repairs, and so forth. The problem is so often is that they do it at their cost. A recent case in Irene, big sinkhole in the middle of the road. The community gathers the 450,000 rand, nearly 500,000 to fix it. And instead of engaging with the authorities, who they did try and engage with, and say you need to fix it, all the authorities says, look, there's an alternative route. They block off the road. Businesses down that road die. The households in the neighborhoods where the big trucks are going through get ruined. It's crazy. What they needed to do was to hold the government to account, local government. So what you do is you get the 3 quotes. You give them notification. If they don't repair it, you tell them you're going to repair it and collect the money from them. That is what the courts are looking for. They give you the court order, you fix the road, show them the 3 quotes, and then you go and get the court order to attach the mayor's car, desks, whatever you have to do. You have to make their life hell. And that's the strategy that we are looking to implement now in Johannesburg. But it goes broader than that because we can't live in these islands. And I see it here with this mentality and this thinking that we're okay here, Jack, so let's not worry about it. I think the whole idea of Cape independence is crazy. They're going to ask the people in Britain and Brexit whether that was a good idea when the world is working together, stronger together, better together, united. We grow, and yet we want to become separatists. Not going to happen. It's a dream, but if you ever got there, you'll rue that day because this is a country that we have to fight for together. I said earlier, who's in power today is not necessarily in power tomorrow. The dynamics that you're seeing at play that Gayton spoke about will change. And so what we need to do is build a resilient civil society. Because we could have another mayor that wants to listen tomorrow and it changes the year later or 3 years later. So what does a resilient co-governing civil society look like? Well, it looks like we need to build movements. We need to build community leaders, support them, and start cleaning up what they're doing in a number of neighborhoods in Joburg now. They've got the permission from the police, taking down all the illegal signage, fixing up the pavements, getting involved. Now, of course, our view is if you do too much of that at your cost, the municipalities love that because they don't have to spend money. So that's why I said earlier, you need to have a reporting mechanism, let them know you're doing it, but that you're coming after them for the funds. If you do that collectively, and if you do that with multiple communities in the place like Johannesburg, in all communities, the poorer communities, you find the leaders and we get in there and we fix and we understand what the problems are. If there are no skips, let's do that. Let's give the skips, let's get the waste removal done properly. Let's help communities become proud of their neighborhoods. Let's start defending our rights, but at the same time put together a team that demands that we have a seat at the table at council. Now, we're not breaking the law. We're not trying to force our way in, but we're trying to command and demand our rights. We have a right to see the financials, the budgets, to have a say. And if you're not going to listen to us, then we'll start enforcing the integrated resource plans, the development plans that you do. And we'll start having the eyes and ears on the grounds when the sewage system that you're fixing is being put in place. We'll start reporting collectively on what should be happening with our money. We don't need the municipality's permission to guard our electrical substations. It's a problem. We met with Joburg City. We've got a solution for them. So we're going to do it anyway. We're going to put the cameras onto the substations from the houses around there, use their electricity, have the reporting app, which, by the way, we have, and we'll do the deals with the armed responses of those communities. And as citizens, we see what's going on, the vandalism. We'll be able to fix that and stop that and do citizen arrests. As Ian spoke about, there's so many opportunities. The problem is that with government, they don't want to hear. You know, we offered them an app which we've developed for all municipalities, free of charge to citizens and the municipalities, on reporting potholes, water leaks, wastewater, drains overflowing. They don't want it. It's amazing. But we know why, because when a municipality gets the information, they know they have to do something about it. So they have this ostrich mentality. The sad thing is that I was speaking at an event 3 months before the last local elections, and the mayor-to-be, Paul, said to me, if I become mayor, I was launching this link app there. We will install this link app in Joburg. 3 months after she did become mayor, I was in her office saying about that decision. Didn't happen. It didn't happen. You know what frustrates me is when I hear politicians say, let Joburg sink. Let Joburg completely fail, and maybe they'll vote for us the next time around. That's sick. That's wrong. That's bull dust. We can't let that happen. Politicians, when they start thinking and talking like that, are arrogant. They're out of touch with the communities. The message we had for the mayor, and the message we have for the next mayor and for all mayors in this town, is start working with your communities. We will help you. We've got a lot of expertise that we can bring to the table, retired engineers, accountants. We want to fix these towns and cities. But if you fob us off and shun us, we're going to force our way in. And so what that might look like at the next elections is that if we get enough individuals that stand up in their communities and start making a difference, maybe those are the people that are going to be the people who stand up to be elected in those wards. Maybe it is going to be more independence, and we saw that at the last local elections. We're seeing it now for the first time. It's a growing phenomenon. I can guarantee you that if we get this right, there will be more local leaders not connected to political parties running many towns, and I think in a city like Johannesburg. But that's the work we have to do. Now, what do we have to do to get there? We could never do that. We could never set up this structure without funds. And this is why, and part of the message here really is about how does corporate South Africa get involved? It's so necessary that you start realizing that CSI spend, corporate social investment, is about investing in communities. It's about investing in the work that civil activism does on your behalf. Business is not going to stop the car power ships coming into the country. We have to do that. We did that. We kept them tied up in courts. It was civil society that stopped the ludicrous nuclear deal that's coming, and civil society who will stop NHI, along with others that we are meeting with others that are looking at litigation there. And it's very necessary litigation. It's civil society that had to stop the president's introduction of the state of disaster on electricity. We didn't need it. It was a farce to shoe in emergency purchasing power of electricity, such as car power ships. Those deals, those big multi-billion rand deals, are what feed the ANC and corrupt cronies offshore. The ETOL deal was going to send about $1 billion, $1.5 billion offshore every year to people that were going to eat off that deal. So we have to do this work. We have got a country that I can tell you, it's good that we criticize, but we need to be critical in a constructive manner. I'll give you a quick short story why, and there are many of these. While we have an amazing country, and it's one that we have to fight for, but we have to work hard for. A friend of mine has emigrated recently to the UK. November, he went to the doctor with his wife who wasn't feeling well. She was diagnosed with gallstone problem. So he said, well, what can we do? When can we operate? So I looked in the computer. No, we've got a slot in 338 days. 338 days. It was crazy. He was listening to this. That's what's happening to the health system there. And there are other family members. He phoned his doctor, which he'd recently, he still had a lot of contacts here, in Flora Clinic in Joburg, booked an appointment, flew here. Oh, by the way, before they did that, they went to the private healthcare there. They got a price that was so ridiculous. He booked his appointment for his wife at Flora Clinic, flew out, had the op, 2 weeks later, back in London, at 1/10 of the price of what the private doctors would have done that job for in the UK. It is not what it is. Around the world, there is sewage flowing into the river systems in the UK because the wastewater treatment plants have been outsourced, privatized, prices are going through the roof. We've got so much going for us. We have got a lot of problems. We can fix this country, but we're not going to fix it by complaining. We're going to fix it by getting involved. We're going to fix it by supporting civil activism. Our team should not be a team of 42 staff. It should be a team of 142. But it's tough. It's tough out there. And I know we've got a couple of supporters here who religiously give us great donations. And without you guys, we would be struggling. So, we want to thank our supporters. We want to thank the public for standing up against e-tolls. It was them who brought the scheme down. But we said to the public, we would defend every single individual if you're summoned on one condition, that we could do so. And so we built a formidable team, and there are a lot of good organizations out there. And I just implore you to go beyond the boundaries of comfort, to go beyond the boundaries of business as usual, to look for those entities, those institutions, those organizations within your environments. Even in towns like this, there are issues. You need to start working with civil activists, civil society, find the good causes, and go and make an absolute difference, as opposed to just staying in the bubble and thinking that everything's going to be okay. It won't be if we sit back and do nothing. Thank you very much.